Welcome back, warrior. So I'm like this close to putting on a beanie. It's so cold. But I know that it's not actually that cold because it's like 73 in our home. And, if you were my brother, that's already really hot. I think he keeps it like 68 or 67. Anyway, and I'm like freezing. So, and outside it's currently 58. So it's almost like I'm feeling the temperature that's outside, but inside. So like I have this long sleeve, like sweatshirt, plus our Harry Potter robes for Halloween because they're fuzzy. Oh man. Anyways, I think this menopause thing is kind of crazy. So it's got me all kinds of weird. All right, here we go. We are on Mosiah chapter 13, and this one has, this one has 35 verses. So, it's not my favorite length. Also, I'm really tired right now. It's that time of the month. And like I slept 8 hours. I mean, not uninterrupted, but 8 hours. And look at me. I'm so tired. I'm freezing. It's that time, and we're still here. Okay. We're still here. We're going to do this. Okay. We need Jesus to help us today. So we got stuff happening, life just doesn't stop because you don't feel 100% energy or whatever. So I wish, right? Could we just pause for a minute to sleep till noon? I don't know. Okay. Or till, what I really like? I heard way back that the women back in the day, in the scriptures, used to do this thing where it was called the red tent, and they kept the women there when it was that time of the month. And I'm not gonna lie, I wish that I could go away for a week when that time of the month comes and just not worry about my responsibilities. Wouldn't that be nice? And so I think that would have been fantastic. Now, don't get me wrong, I have no idea what else went on in there because they put all the women in the red tent. So I'd rather just be there by myself because I could bring a friend. Maybe we could bring a friend because sometimes your best friend and you have the same cycle because you hang out together. So I could have my bestie with me, but no more. Everybody else should just take care of everything else. It would be my own custom red tent because honestly, I think the peeps back in the day would let the kids go there and stuff, and I'm like, no, because it was they thought it was really gross, and I still think it's gross, but what am I gonna do? Okay, here we go. Abinadi is protected by divine power. He teaches the 10 Commandments. Salvation does not come by the law of Moses alone. God himself shall make an atonement and redeem his people. All right. So we're going to read verse 1, then we're going to do the Reddit hostess commentary. Wow, I'm literally walking. And now, when the king had heard these words, he said unto his priests, away with this fellow and slay him, for what have we to do with him? For he is mad. Yeah, okay. So Abinadi has withstood all the priests, and so King Noah attempts to dismiss Abinadi by calling him mad. In 1829 dictionary, or in 1828 dictionary, which gives definitions of words in Joseph Smith's day, when he translated. Okay, so I got a phone call. Okay, here we go. Let's see. And then, so we must bind our passions in chains, lest like mad folks, they break their locks and bolts. So the idea is that King Noah is saying that Abinadi cannot be reasoned with because he was disordered in intellect, and therefore possesses a threat or risk to others. This would give King Noah reason to justify slaying Abinadi. The irony is that Abinadi had just demonstrated great clarity and reason, right? It's them that are like messed up in what they're saying and what they're doing, which is sad. So sad. I still think it's so sad that he had to get murdered like this. Okay, and they stood forth and attempted to lay their hands on him, but he withstood them and said unto them, touch me not. I love this. Touch me not, for God shall smite you if ye lay your hands upon me. For I have not delivered the message which the Lord sent me to deliver, neither have I told you that which ye requested that I should tell. Therefore, God will not suffer that I shall be destroyed at this time. Like, that's just awesome. Like, I don't know. I love that so much. So their question about what the Isaiah scripture meant is what he's talking about, like that he hadn't answered them yet. Verse 4, but I must fulfill the commandments wherewith God has commanded me. And because I have told you the truth, ye are angry with me. And again, because I have spoken the word of God, ye have judged me that I am mad. But he is not mad. Okay, so it's verses 2-4. Says these verses are examples of what President Spencer W. Kimball taught when he said, martyrs lived to complete their work. In that same talk, President Kimball said, speaking of prophets, quote, but the powers of earth and hell cannot take him till the hour is come. It will be recalled that Peter was released from prison by an angel and protected in many ways till his work was finished. And Paul, likewise, no violence could take his life until he had borne his testimony to Rome and Greece and other lands. But finally, he made the prophetic statement to Timothy, for I am now ready to be offered, and the time of my departure is at hand. I have fought a good fight. I have finished my course. I have kept the faith. End quote. Ooh. President Spencer W. Kimball, April 1946 General Conference. So Abinadi's focus was on delivering the Lord's message, not preserving his own life. So he declares, but I must fulfill the commandments wherewith God has commanded me. Then God will give him the power to say what Abinadi needs to say. And it is one of the greatest sermons ever given. So this is Mosiah chapter 13-16, right? It's what we're getting to read right now. If Abinadi would not have delivered the message, a priest named Alma, remember him, would not have heard it. And Alma became a prophet, and so did Alma's son, Alma the younger. Then Alma the younger son will be Helaman, who led the 2,000 stripling warriors. Helaman's son will be Helaman, whom the book of Helaman is named after. Helaman's son is Nephi, the great missionary in the book of Helaman, and Nephi's son is Nephi, who becomes the disciple of Christ in 3rd Nephi. What? Okay, I never knew that whole family line. The righteous ripple effect of Abinadi's message is never ending, so having some wicked people angry at him is unfortunate, but expected. If you are interested in teaching this to your children, see the kids marking guide in the teaching tools file this week. Ooh, I'm gonna have to look that up and let you know what it is. Okay, speaking of people's ripple effect, okay, so I got my interview with the temple presidency, or assistant to the temple presidency member, Brother Smith. Anyway, yesterday, this was where I was able to go to the temple, my temple appointment, and it was so amazing. So I'm like the newest temple worker, the newest person called to be a temple worker. And I'm so excited. But something that I wanted to share was that, like, my grandmother, my abuelita Olguita, she was the one that I remember very first ever told me about the temple and the blessings that come from the temple, the strength, the peace, the love, like everything. She would tell me all about it. She would show me her name tags from working at the temple so long. Like, she had so many name tags. Like, this was my name tag from when I worked at the temple over here, and this was my name tag from working at the temple over here. I didn't even know that, like, technically you can't use the same name tag. I don't know. Anyway, and it was just like so awesome. She would be like the one that would talk with us all the time, because our parents were always working. And so like she talked to us all the time and all the time about the temple. And sometimes some of the things that she would tell me were like really awesome. And sometimes they were like questionable about like certain things. And I'm like, maybe, and you just kind of took bits and pieces. But the thing that I took from her the most was the fact that she just loved spending time with me. She would listen to me, and I could tell that she loved me and that she loved the Lord and the temple and attending there. And now fast forward this many years from when I was like 7 or whatever, or 8. I know she was there at my baptism and stuff too. And so fast forward so many years, like anytime I ever talked with her, like it was something about the temple. Okay. So, and even like till before she moved to Peru, she was telling me that she needed white clothing to just wear all the time. Like she wanted to wear basically her white temple clothes all the time. Like, and you can just wear like regular white. Like that's what it is. It's like long dress. And she just always wanted to wear her túnica blanca. Like it was just like what she wore. And so she always wanted to wear that, her white dress, like just always in temple clothes until the day that we took her to the airport and whatever and sent her to my dad in Peru so that he could take care of her. And anyway, she's like the sweetest. And then now I'm going to go get to work in the temple after all those years of her telling me. And it was so fun, like when I was there getting interviewed, Brother Smith, I was like, yeah, so I want to work in the temple, and I've done like a 60-day temple challenge, and I've been going to the temple since 2008, every Tuesday, at least once a week, sometimes more, closer to the COVID time. And then after, COVID, I started trying to just do multiple times a week. And anyway, and I'm like, so now I want to work here. He's like, what took you so long? And I thought it was so cute. And I was like, I don't know. All my excuses took me that long. And like, just like the love that I felt from him and the excitement that he had for just me coming to work there. He doesn't even know me, but he was just really excited for me. It was really awesome. And what was really neat was at the beginning, they said that they only had certain spots available, like certain time slots. And I don't know what the schedule is for the temple. Like, I don't know what their time slots are. I don't know where all the positions are, but I did think that the positions were like where you could rotate. I thought like if you started working somewhere, you would rotate. So like doing the temple ordinances for adults, and then you could rotate to like the baptistry where like the youth are. And then like you just kind of rotate through everything. And that's what I thought would happen. And he said, actually, you need to commit to at least 1 year of being in the same position before you can request a different position. So is this like the one that you want? And I was like, well, I mean, I do want to work here, but I kind of hesitate a little bit because I don't want to have to like always reschedule because my husband's schedule is a little different. So the first shift that I was going to have was Friday from like 5 to 10. And it would be like a regular ordinance worker. And then I was like, well, but I see. So they gave me a schedule. And so I could see like all the different hour blocks that they have for different positions and different people and responsibilities. And I was like, well, I see that there's a spot in the baptistry that's 4 to 8:15 in the morning. And I was like, could I have maybe one of those instead? Because how cool would it be if like I could see Finn come in to the temple and like get to do that, and like while I'm working there, like that would be the ultimate. And then like, what about when our 10-year-old comes, like Faust? It would be just awesome to see him there too. And it would be cool to have like Dad, Faust, and been there all at the same time while I'm working. And it would just be like the coolest thing. And I remember it was the coolest thing when I would go and my mom would be there and she would be working. And so then it got me thinking like, that would be like a really great time, you know? And so he was like, well, let's set you apart. And so he gave me a blessing, and then, which was very powerful, by the way. And I should have recorded the audio, but I totally forgot because I was all excited. Anyway. And then, so we went back out to the gal in the front, and she was, we asked her if she could look it up to see if, you know, they needed somebody in the baptistry. So turns out that they did need somebody for in the baptistry at that time. And so that's the one I get to have. And I'm like, yes, this is going to be perfect, because now I don't have to make my husband late to work. He could just stay there until I get back, and then he can still go to work by 9. Like, perfect, right? So I'm just so excited about this. Anyway, so if you don't know if you can work at the temple, you never know. So just like go and try to find something. They also have like office positions. There was one that was like, I can't remember, one that ended at like 7 a.m. And I was like, ooh, that one would even be better. Like, I don't mind working midnight shift. They also have a security shift that's like a midnight security shift. And I was like, yeah, I would love to do that with my husband. That would be fun. And anyway, like, there's just so many opportunities. And so if you're not sure what your schedule is, and you're not sure what the temple schedule is, like, just go and just contact your bishop, say that you want to work at the temple, and just go get that interview and then figure it out. I feel like they're not going to turn away somebody just because you only have a certain window of time, you know? But they're trying, so our Mount Timpanogos temple, he says it takes 3,000 people to staff it. I'm like, what? I had no idea. Like, I asked my son, I'm like, how many people do you think it takes to staff the temple? He's like 100 and, what did he say? He said 100 and something. Anyway, I was like, yeah, totally off. And I was like, yeah, 3,000 people. And so we have a Linden temple going to be built, or still in the process. And I'm like, okay, it probably is going to take more people to staff that one because it's so huge. Anyway, and it's going to have 2 baptistries. Oh, it's going to be amazing. But anyway, so the ripple effect. So my grandmother was the one that is our family pioneer. She was the first one to be baptized into the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And she did that as an adult woman. And then it was my dad, and then it was my mom, and then it was me, and then my brothers. And then now the people that have worked in the temple are my grandmother. My dad currently works at the temple in Peru. And my mom, she works at the temple here in, I can't remember. I thought it's the Orem temple. But anyway, and it was the Provo temple. And so because they closed that, then she had to switch. But anyway, and so that's like all of us. And now it's me. So my grandmother, my dad, my mom, and me. Like, we all work in the temple. And that, like, it's so cool. Obviously, my grandmother, she's 94. She does not work in the temple anymore. But she would totally be working there if she could. So anyway, I just thought that was kind of neat and reminded me of that when I was reading the ripple effect. And so my grandma probably had no idea that of her influence on us as she was telling us about the temple. But I love that she instilled that desire in me to, like, at least want to check out the temple, you know, and she never made me go, you know, and then, and then by her example, always being there, you know, I'm like, oh, maybe I need to go. Check this out, you know? And then the Lord has helped me fall in love with the temple because I can feel his love, his peace, and his strength when I go. And so it's like, well, how could I not, you know? Anyways, now I feel like it's getting a little warm. That's what the Spirit does to you, which is great because I need that. Okay, so now we're on verse 5. Oh boy, this is going to take a while if this is how long we're going to take to go through 4 verses. Now it came to pass after Abinadi had spoken these words that the people of King Noah durst not lay their hands on him, for the Spirit of the Lord was upon him, and his face shone with exceeding luster, even as Moses' did, while in the Mount of Sinai, while speaking with the Lord. And he spake with power and authority from God. And he continued his words, saying, so we're reading till verse 7. Ye see that ye have no power to slay me. Therefore I finish my message. Yea, and I perceive that it cuts you to your hearts, because I tell you the truth concerning your iniquities. Oh yeah, it totally would. Okay, it says, like Moses upon Mount Sinai, Abinadi's face shone with exceeding luster. God is blessing Abinadi with a physical manifestation that shows that he has authority from God. This is interesting in the specific circumstance because Abinadi will be speaking about the law of Moses and how it alone cannot save you. So as he does, so he will even look like Moses looked. This was a testimony, a sign. Will they see it? Alma will. I didn't even think of that. That's really neat. Okay, verses 8 to 10. Yea, and my words fill you with wonder and amazement and with anger. Sometimes during conference, doesn't that happen? You're like, yes, yes. And then you're like, oh, now I feel bad. So you kind of get a little mad because Satan's trying to tell you that, like, see what they're saying? It makes you angry because there's nothing wrong with that. We're just human, right? Isn't that like what he's trying to tell us? So then we get angry, right? But we know the truth. Deep down, we know what's going on. And if we get humble and allow ourselves to learn from conference and from those beloved speakers and those prophets and apostles, like, it will help us to change for the better, right? I mean, if you've ever been to like a motivational speaker who isn't a prophet or apostle, and you probably feel the same, because you're like, yeah, I know I need to wake up early and be more productive with my life instead of sleeping in. Or yeah, I know I don't need to I know Mel Robbins, I love her, and she's like, don't put your phone next to your bed and go to sleep. You have to put your phone away 1 hour before you go to bed, so that'll help you get better sleep. Well, like, don't you get mad? Like, isn't that wonderful and amazing? And then it fills you with a little bit of anger because you like are mad at yourself that you don't do that. But then you're also mad at yourself if you like had to do that. So it's not like necessarily new to only things that have to do with Jesus Christ. You know what I mean? Like, or like, if that makes sense. So like, I feel like sometimes we tell like the apostles and the prophets, like, or like we say that they aren't saying good things to us and that they're being so judgy and, you know, whatever, or like they don't know because they're old, right? But then really it just depends on who you're listening to and who you want to listen to, because then the same person could be listening to like Tony Robbins and he's telling people stuff, and then you're like, oh yeah, I should do that. So like, who are you taking advice from, right? Like, I'm not saying Tony Robbins is bad. I also love Tony Robbins. Like, I think he's a really good guy and he teaches a lot of awesome principles. But also, like, if you're going to get mad at prophets and apostles trying to help you become better, you'll probably get mad at people like Tony Robbins or Mel Robbins or motivational speakers, or, you know, like Greg McEwen, or trying to think of all the different authors that I like to listen to. And so like, if you're gonna, like, if you're in a space where you want to improve yourself, you're going to listen to people who are trying to help you improve yourself. If you're in a space where you don't want to improve and where you're just going to be stubborn and you just want to live your life the way you want to live it, and then you're not going to listen to hardly anyone. So, but we're not going to also progress when we're in that space. So anyway, that's just my 2 cents. I think General Conference is like TED Talks for your spirit. And I love TED Talks. Okay, verse 9. But I finish my message, and then it matters not whither I go, if it so be that I am saved. So he's just like, I'm going to finish this, and whether you like it or not, and that's what matters. And it doesn't matter what happens to him. Like, that's some serious courage. But this much I tell you, what you do with me after this shall be as a type and a shadow of things which are to come. So he's prophesying now what is going to happen to others based on what is going to happen to him, right? And so with Abinadi's face shining, their inability to lay hands upon him, and his fearlessness over whether he or not he is put to death, these verses should have been heard, heeded, and put fear into the king and priests. What you do with me after this shall be as a type and a shadow of things which are to come. Like, hello, like, this is where you want to pay attention, people. Okay, so verse 11 to 24. So it says, and now I read unto you the remainder of the commandments of God. For I perceive that they are not written in your hearts. I perceive that ye have studied and taught iniquity the most part of your lives. Oof. Well, doesn't that make you feel like unproductive with your life? You have studied and taught iniquity the most part of your lives. Well, that was a waste. Good job, guys. And now you remember that I said unto you, thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of the things which are in heaven above, or which are in the earth beneath, or which are in the water under the earth. Okay, so he's talking about the commandments now. And again, thou shalt not bow down thyself unto them, nor serve them, for I the Lord thy God. For I the Lord thy God am a jealous God, visiting the iniquities of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generations of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work. But the seventh day, the Sabbath day of the Lord thy God, thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, and the sea, and all that in them is. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land, which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Thou shalt not kill. I was just thinking, it says, honor thy father and thy mother, and then the next one's, thou shalt not kill, right? Like, because sometimes if children don't want to do that, then if children don't want to honor thy father and thy mother, sometimes parents get a little bit heated in arguments with their kids when they don't want to be obedient. And I love that the first one is for the kids. The second one right after that is for the parents. You know what I mean? Maybe it should also say, like, thou shalt not have a desire to kill. Okay. 22, thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. And yeah, the adultery one is so real, you know? Verse 24, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife. Remember the adultery? Yeah, like let's spell it out a little bit more. I think some people couldn't hear that in the back. Nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. And I think there's a difference between coveting and like righteous desire to, you know, to progress. I think it's a little different. Okay, so that was verse 24. So it says, Abinadi then lists the rest of the commandments. They would have known these commandments, but he says, I perceive that they are not written in your hearts. These priests might be able to recite them, but that is it. One question that we might ask ourselves is, do others perceive what is written upon my heart? And so, like, what is written upon our heart, right? Okay, verse 25 and 26. And it came to pass that after Abinadi had made an end of these sayings, that he said unto them, have ye taught this people that they should observe to do all these things for to keep these commandments? I say unto you, nay. For if ye had, the Lord would not have caused me to come forth and to prophesy evil concerning this people. Yeah, true. Because like, if you're teaching them, the Lord doesn't have to intervene. Okay, in verse 25, Abinadi asks them a question and then answers it for them in verse 26. The reason the Lord has sent him there to prophesy is because these priests were not teaching truth. A priest's job is to bring others to Christ, to help save them. These are the commandments, the very basics, so it's like back to primary stuff, of what they should be teaching, but they had not. Okay, verse 27 to 32. Okay, see, now we're covering a little extra quickly now. And now ye have said that salvation cometh by the law of Moses. I say unto you that it is expedient that ye should keep the law of Moses as yet. But I say unto you that the time shall come when it shall no more be expedient to keep the law of Moses. Wait, did I? Oh, to 32, sorry. And moreover, I say, so we were going to keep the law of Moses for a certain amount of time, and then we're going to switch over. It's going to convert. And moreover, I say unto you that salvation doth not come by the law alone. And were it not for the atonement which God himself shall make for the sins and iniquities of his people, that must unavoidably perish, or that they must unavoidably perish, notwithstanding the law of Moses. And now I say unto you that it was expedient that there should be a law given to the children of Israel, yea, even a very strict law, for they were a stiff-necked people, quick to do iniquity and slow to remember the Lord their God. Therefore there was a law given them, yea, a law of performances and of ordinances, a law which they were to observe strictly from day to day, to keep them in remembrance of God and their duty towards him. But behold, I say unto you that all these things were types of things to come. And so types meaning like an example of things to come, and like symbolic, right? And now did they understand the law? I say unto you, nay, they did not all understand the law. And this because of the hardness of their hearts, for they understood not that there could not any man be saved except it were through the redemption of God. Okay, so this was like the purpose of the law of Moses, right? So I don't want to give anybody like a pass or whatever, but I'll be honest, I can totally relate to a desire to not wanting to make sacrifices of animals with a bunch of blood and all that stuff. So I can relate to that. However, that being said, like, wouldn't you have like wanted to know like of how the law of Moses was going to like help us come unto Christ, and then how Christ is going to help us like get rid of those things? Like, I don't know, I would have really looked forward to trying to pay attention to those things. Like, wait, you're telling me that this law of Moses isn't going to be forever? That's good, because I don't want to do this forever. That's the thing. I think sometimes we as humans just need to know like how, like what amount of time is going to be required to do a specific task, right? Or at least that's how I am. I'm like, I could almost do something if I knew when the end is gonna be, or like was gonna be. Like if, like, I think for that time of the month, for example, like I know that now it takes like a week for me to process through all that mess, and that it's like, okay, it's fine. I only have a few more days, right? Like one more. And so you just kind of think like that. Okay, sorry, had to go help with the little miss. She was hungry. Okay. So the priest had said, salvation comes by the law of Moses. Here Abinadi was very clear, or here Abinadi very clearly and capably teaches that salvation does not come through the law of Moses, but the law of Moses points to Christ, where salvation does come. These are some of the best scriptures about the purpose of the law of Moses in all of Scripture. It is very plainly and clearly taught. Oh, I'm trying to go a little faster. I think I'm going to slow down. Here we go. In verses 29 to 31, Abinadi explains why the law of Moses was given in the first place, and quick history will help us understand these verses. When Moses led the children of Israel out of Egypt, they had just come out of bondage, and they needed a lesser law, or a very strict law. So they were given the law of Moses, which was full of performances and ordinances, a law which they were to observe strictly from day to day. This was a preparatory law, a law to prepare them for the fullness of the law, and a law to point them to Christ. With this lesser law came the lesser or a preparatory priesthood and Aaronic priesthood. If they were not living the fullness of the law, they could not hold the Melchizedek priesthood and partake of the ordinances therein. Observed and understood correctly, the law of Moses would help them come unto Christ. Nephi, Jacob, and others were examples of those who lived the law of Moses, but looked forward to the coming of Christ. The intent of the law of Moses is evident in their lives. Many New Testament Jews are also examples of those who understood the true meaning of the law, for they recognized Jesus as the Christ and became Christians. Elder Jeffrey R. Holland explained this. Quote, the modern reader should not see the Mosaic Code anciently or in modern times as simply a tedious set of religious rituals, slavishly and sometimes militantly followed by a stiff-necked people who did not accept Christ and his gospel. This historic covenant, given by the hand of God himself and second only to the fullness of the gospel as an avenue to righteousness, should be seen rather as the unparalleled collection of types, shadows, symbols, and prefigurations of Christ that it is. For that reason, it was once and still is, in its essence and purity, a guide to spirituality, a gateway to Christ, a path of strict commandment keeping that would, through the laws of duty and decency, lead to higher laws of holiness on the way to immortality and eternal life. End quote. Oh, I love that. That's beautiful the way he said that. So Elder Jeffrey R. Holland, of course, because he's the best. And it's in a book titled Christ and the New Covenant, page 136 and 137. Oh, I like that. Okay, and then we're going to read 33 to 35. It says, for behold, did not Moses prophesy unto them concerning the coming of the Messiah, and that God should redeem his people? Yea, and even all the prophets who have prophesied ever since the world began, have they not spoken more or less concerning these things? Have they not said that God himself should come down among the children of men and take upon him the form of a man and go forth in mighty power upon the face of the earth? Yea, and have they not said also that he should bring to pass the resurrection of the dead, and that he himself should be oppressed and afflicted? Okay, so that's the last of that, and then we'll read this little recap, and then we'll read it, live it. Every prophet teaches what Abinadi is teaching. They are witnesses of Jesus Christ. Moses never taught that his law alone would save them. He was a witness of Jesus Christ. Yea, even all the prophets who prophesied ever since the world began have all taught about Jesus Christ, his life, ministry, and mission. Abinadi stood with all of those prophets in this moment of time. This was his opportunity to stand and testify. Oh, I love that so much. Okay, then we're going to do the Read It, Live It. Okay, the Read It, Live It says, King Noah has tried to thwart Abinadi's mission again and again with his power and authority. But Abinadi continues. He speaks with true power and authority from God. Who is trying to thwart what God has called you to do? Ooh, continue. So just like keep at it, continue doing that thing that God has called you to do. And that is awesome. I love that so much. That's part of that. That's part of how we crush Satan, heeding the Lord's commands to serve those around us with our gifts and our talents. And as we use those gifts, they become our weapons against the adversary, because when we serve God, he doesn't like that. And we love that. All right. Until Mosiah chapter 14, stay strong, warrior.